You already know who I am. My name is Topher, and I think Olivia. Anyways, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about Dutch high school. I'm going to be talking from my experience, how I experienced Dutch high school, because not everyone is going to have the same exact experience as I do, of course. But these are just a few things that I have noticed while I was in Dutch high school that I liked, that I did not like, that I experienced, that I had gone through, that were insanely deeply thought through, and that I went through. A few disclaimers before we start. First of all, I am in uni right now. I'm 20 years old. I'm going into my second year of uni. I'm going to be starting a first year of my medicines program, but I already did 1 year of uni. So for me, it's been literally an entire year since I've been in high school and since I finished my high school diploma. Second of all, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to bash anyone from my high school or how I went. This is just my experience, how I experienced it, and how I think it was. Everyone has their own experiences. It just was the way it is. Also, trigger warning, I will be talking about bullying, racism, discrimination, those kind of sort of things. So if you are someone that is kind of sensitive to those topics, then I would not recommend you watching this video because I will be discussing it pretty in depth. So yeah, let's just start. I personally really did not like my high school experience whatsoever. The only times that I really liked it were the last 2 years, I think, 1.5 years of high school. That was the moment when I really started to make friends and to connect a bit more with people. Before that, everything was hell. Everything I went through was hell. Everything was not fun whatsoever. The people were not fun. The Dutch people were not fun. It was just not nice at all. The high school that I went through, it was a really good high school in general. The teachers were really helpful. Everyone was really helpful in terms of how to, getting it on with your school life. They really helped with going into uni as well, and applications, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't really say that the school is necessarily the problem, but the people definitely are. High school kids in general are just wild. Honestly, every single time I talk with my psychologist about it, Dutch high schools are just a big ass jungle. It's literally a big jungle. Everyone is consistently hunting for other things like drama and more fights and more kind of backlash around it, because that is the only interesting thing that can happen to them in life. Especially when you're in high school, it's just a big ass mess in general. You're just developing your whole freaking life and evolving as a person. So you cannot expect that it's gonna be the most peaceful time of your life unless you are living in a country where things are very strict and very well behaved. But in terms of the Netherlands, it is pretty free as in what you do in high school and in school in general. I'll just start from the beginning. I did 6 years. No, wait. I did 7 years of school. I started out at HAVO and then I went on to VWO, which is the highest level of, school system ranking, because there's 3 major types. You have VMBO, you have HAVO, and then you have VWO. These are all preparant for what you're going to do after school. VMBO is 4 years of school, HAVO is 5 years of school, and VWO is 6 years of school. Depending on how many times you actually redo years or do resits or that kind of stuff, or if you even make it to the next year, it depends on how long you're going to be taking your school life. So basically how long you're going to be studying in the high school. I started out with bilingual HAVO, so I had everything in English except for French, Dutch, and German. All other subjects were all in English, so I was taught in English. First thing I want to mention, and this is in my experience, I was the only person in my class that was Muslim. In general, if you do go to the higher levels, so if you're getting to HAVO and VWO, the amount of foreigners will get less and less and less, only until you get older into high school. So when you get into 4th, 5th, 6th year, you're not going to be exposed much to other people that are from the same areas where you might be from. So my personal experience, I was in very little contact in school, at least with foreigners. Out of the 25 people in my class, there are maybe max 4 or 5 people that were foreign or that were with a background. So I'd say you have me, of course, you had someone that was Russian, you had someone that was partially Asian, you had someone that was Polish, and then I think someone else was also German or half French or something as well. But I will honestly not really count that in because those people also grew up usually with a Dutch parent in their household. There were only 2 people in my class, of which one myself and the other one was a Polish girl, that did not have partially Dutch parents whatsoever. So there was a bit of a difference in between that. My secondary school that I went to, so the school before I went to high school, it was literally mostly foreign people. And I will add on to that saying it was mostly Moroccan people, which I was very good with and that I really like to have. It was also people that were all Muslim, so there was not much of a cultural difference whatsoever in there. I was of course a very loose kid. I was very happy. I was very energetic. I had ADHD, but it was undiagnosed, so I was kind of going around and jumping around and being funny and energetic, and no one could really understand that. So of course I started to get bullied in high school, and honestly it's kind of part of life. You either get bullied in high school or you do not get bullied whatsoever in your school life. I personally did get bullied in the first 2 years of my high school, but what was particularly interesting in this is that they also add a lot of discrimination to it. Because I was Muslim and partially Middle Eastern, I also got called out a lot for that, especially the fully Dutch kids. I do not want to generalize these people, but in general, those were people that would always say something about my religion or about where I'm from. And in a country where it's pretty diverse, that should not be able to happen even, especially if there's literally rules to not discriminate and that are against discrimination. And so, 2-3 months went by in the first year, and at some point a black girl comes into the class. So also people started to comment on that. There were a few people that were very welcoming and very open to her, but at some point they also started to kind of be a bit discriminating against her and literally low-key racist about it, especially when we were waiting outside of the classroom and in the hallways. There were people from other classes that kept like saying the N-word right into her face and like kept screaming it and blah blah blah. This girl literally felt uncomfortable many of the times that she was there just standing and waiting for her class to start. I just find it very absurd that there's people literally from other classes as well that will comment on someone from a different class just to like, you know, hurt them, make fun of them, just have some more attention from it. So that is one thing that I particularly noticed in Dutch high school. Bullying and fighting is very normal there. Genuinely, someone being bullied and called out for any type of things, like getting made fun of, is very normalized here. And that is the problem. When you're a 12, 13-year-old kid and you go into high school and you get exposed to, first of all, a bunch of new people and also a completely new environment, then you are not going to feel good if people are consistently making fun of you and laughing about it. I understand you're just kids and you're also going to try to have fun at school because you know what else you're going to do in school except for studying. But it went to such an extent that people literally started to like cry in the middle of the class because they got called out and teachers could not even handle it. Another thing I really noticed is whenever teachers would try to come into the convo as well, when someone got bullied, it would just like never really work. Every single time promises would be made like, oh yeah, I would call the parent. Oh yeah, I will tell the parent. Oh yeah, we will go through with the school and do something about this. Nothing literally happened. And this is not only for me, but also for other instances of people that were bullied that I know of, that were also in Dutch high schools and that also had the same experience. And I will say this yet again, I don't think it is the problem of the school itself, but mainly the people that are in it. In general, the Dutch school system is very effed up. It's not managed well whatsoever. Up until the point that you go into college or university, you will experience a bunch of like backlash and a bunch of negativity in it. Some people have it very positively and go through it very easily. Other people will have the hardest freaking time of their lives just to get through the first few years of high school. Another thing I've noticed is that the lower levels of school, so VMBO and also HAVO, were also seen as lower, but those were also treated very unequally compared to VWO. VWO is the highest level of the ranking that you can get into for school. Basically, it's the highest high school level of the Netherlands in the school system, and that is completely fine, but there is a big difference in the way that schools treat these levels apart from each other. For instance, every single school year for the final year, so for the exam year, VMBO will not really do much, whereas VWO will have big ass parties. They will have these big events that are happening. They will go to theme parks, a bunch of like exchanges, that kind of stuff. And the same goes just for the general like first 2 years that you go through high school. For me, for instance, I started out the first 3 years for bilingual HAVO, and in the second year we went to London as an exchange trip. VWO will start out with the first year as a London exchange trip, and in the second year they will do other things like Europe tours or whatever. They have a lot more attention on it. They have a bigger budget. They just allow so much more for VWO students than for VMBO and HAVO students. Next to that, the high school I was in, they had a separate building for VWO students. So for 4th, 5th, and 6th year students, they had a separate building. Whereas first and second year was combined for all the levels, and then after that, everyone just kind of goes their separate ways. VMBO and HAVO were put into the same location onto a different one. So basically they put 2 levels, so VMBO and HAVO on one separate location, and only the VWO on the separate location after 3rd year. In 3rd year, I was still on HAVO, and on 4th year, I was in VWO, and I will tell you exactly the difference. On my 3rd year at HAVO, when I was at the combined location of VMBO and HAVO, it was absolutely horrible. The time that I was there, I did not like it. If I think about it now, I think about it as one of the most fun like times of my school life, honestly. And the reason for that is because there's people consistently making fights, consistently throwing chairs and like tables and whatever, like teachers fighting with students all the freaking time. And this is also because the troubled kids are usually on the lower levels of the school system. So most of the times the teachers are like, oh, you do not really have the mental capacity because you are a troubled kid to do HAVO or VWO, so we will put you on VMBO. So a bunch of troubled kids in high school are basically put together into one freaking level, even though a lot of them have the mental capacity to do a higher level. And that's just super stupid, because at that point you're cutting off a bunch of chances for those kids that are a lot more smart and a lot more capable of doing things to get more chances as well. And to me, it really does not make sense if someone is bad at only one thing that you're going to put them immediately onto a level lower than they could potentially do, or that they could like be challenged at. And also, when you have a bunch of troubled kids together in one singular classroom, they are going to make freaking trouble together, and they are going to have a difficult time to actually learn and study and do good things in class. It's a common problem in the Netherlands when you are in Dutch high school and you are in VMBO that you have a class that is not really well manageable. I give exam trainings myself. I know exactly how those kids are, and usually they are more than capable of doing bigger things and like smarter things on bigger levels, but they just do not put them onto it. Coming back to my point, in 3rd year I was in HAVO. I of course saw how these people live. All these kids lived in the present. These are VMBO HAVO kids. They are still like they're thinking about school, but they are always consistently living in the present. They're having fun while they're studying. I mean, best of both worlds, right? The second I entered VWO in 4th year, it was like a depression scene. Everyone kept thinking about their future. No one was living in the present. Everyone was living in their freaking future. Uni applications, college applications, like any single thing that had to do with school, they were already like 5 steps in front of it. And this just made it really difficult to actually enjoy school, because at that point you're only thinking about school, and the only thing you can focus on is how your future is going to look, because you are in the highest level of the school system, so you need to do something. So yeah, of course they put a lot more attention into the VWO, but at the same time they are putting too much pressure on the students, because these students are literally most of the time the most depressed that they could ever be. And on top of that, if you're not performing well and you're not doing well in school, you are in the highest level of the school system, so you are also competing sort of against all the best people, or all the smartest people that get the highest grades in the school. To me, that was the worst thing ever. People were starting to compare things and made it like a competition at some point. There's of course people who did not care about their grades and that really did not give a singular F about how it was going. But there were also very, very highly intelligent people on that level that are going to compare and that like keep commenting on the fact that you are doing worse or lower than they are doing. So basically the grading system here is from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the lowest. You need to have a 5.5 to have a sufficient. If there was a student that had a 9.5, they would literally argue with the teacher to get it higher to a 9.9 or a 9.8 or just to a 10 even. And it's not even because they genuinely do it right, but because they're like, I deserve this. To me, the biggest shocker was the fact that people were actually arguing with teachers to say that they need a higher grade because they deserve it. It's not because they deserve it, because they have a high ego boost and they think that they're at the highest level. Being at the highest level of the Dutch school system does not mean that you are the smartest ever. Does not mean that you are automatically deserving of every single thing that is happening in life within the school system, and does not mean that you are automatically one of the smartest people in the school in general. There's a lot of stupid people I've met on VWO that have made it greatly, and so far just by having a big ego. It kind of shocks me till the day of today that there's people on there that genuinely think so differently and highly of themselves only because they're in the highest school system level, and they're also like, oh yeah, I've had these good grades, so I must be very smart. Usually these students that are on VWO, especially on the 4th, 5th, 6th year, those are usually the students that also made it through their 1st, 2nd, 3rd year with the highest grade. And on top of that, the reason why they were put on VWO is because they were usually perfect students, very quiet, very like calm, very at ease, and always had good grades, so their egos were consistently boosted. If you keep being loved by the teachers because you have high grades, you're going to put a value onto that. And that's exactly what's wrong with the Dutch school system. I personally had to be a freaking victim of this school system, and I was not enjoying it whatsoever. 4th year was the worst freaking year for me ever. 3 years of English school, only English freaking subjects, and having to switch to 4th year to VWO because I went their level higher, all in Dutch, to me was too much. Honestly, not the school just did not help whatsoever in that. And on top of that, a lot of my classmates around me just kept saying like, oh yeah, you're not gonna make it because you did not have higher grades in HAVO, so blah 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 blah, you're not gonna make it, blah 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 blah. I did not have any motivation in my 4th year to do anything. So there's a lot of pressure on there, a lot of competition, and that's just super wrong for students and kids that are just there to learn and study and to get through it and to go to uni to have a good future. It's not a fun place to be whatsoever, because at some point it is going to be a competition. It's the exact same as when you are a top athlete and you're at the highest of the highest. You're going to start to be competitive with the other people that are also the highest of the highest. A 6 might be enough for you, but for someone else that might be really low because they consistently get 8s and 9s in school, in high school, every single year, every single time, every single test on year round. I cannot stress enough how many times it has happened that people were getting a 9 and they were genuinely devastated by the fact that they did not have a 9.5, for instance, or a 10. Excuse me, but when I had a sufficient, I had a 5.5 or 6, and I was roughly going through the year because it was genuinely difficult to get through it. I was just happy as hell to make it through it. If there's genuine kids out there that are devastated by having a 9 and I see that right in front of my face, then I just feel very horrible about the fact that I did not even make it barely, you know? And this is not like a personal issue that only I have experienced. No. Throughout the whole entire country, everyone that does VWO is in this sort of competition season and they feel bad if they get a 6. A 6 is more than sufficient. Do you even know how freaking much that is? 60% of 100% is quite a lot. And still students are devastated because all the other people around them are getting higher grades and whatever, because that's how they've been growing up. The pressure is insane. That's also why all the freaking smartest people in this high school system usually are the most depressed, with the most anxiety, and have the most stress and burnout. I got depression, I got burnout, I got freaking like all messed up and crazy in the head because of this kind of system. And because of this, the finals exams, people just have a lot of insecurities. That's just like the school part. But then if you are a foreigner in class and you are not performing well, then they're also generalizing it. For instance, if I was doing mid as hell in school and someone else that was Dutch would see it, they would consistently comment upon that. Every single time that I would get a mark, they'd be like, oh yeah, he probably has a 6. Oh yeah, he probably has a 5.5. Oh, he barely made it. You know why? Because he is not really good in Dutch. Of course, my Dutch is going to be bad if I did not grow up in a Dutch household, but in a foreign household that's Polish and Kurdish, for instance. And of course, I'm going to have difficulty with performing well in school if I have difficulty with the language as well. There's so many students that are Middle Eastern, for instance, or that are Moroccan, because there's a lot of Moroccan people here. The Moroccans in this country that are doing really well in school and that go to VWO, they're usually in this freaking war with other people in school every single time because they get generalized so much. I've taught students on my exam trainings that were foreign that had the same exact freaking issue. This generalization that we as foreign students on a higher level only perform mid or only are there to like do things over and over again. Because yes, it is true, a lot of people that are foreign and that are on VWO will redo a lot of years again and again and again. But that really does not mean that we are stupid or that we are not capable of doing it. We just have difficulty with the language. That's also another thing I want to mention. If you have difficulty with the language, the Dutch school system will not allow you to do any higher level. And I'm not even joking, the only freaking weak point I had in secondary school was my Dutch, and on my advice that they gave me at the beginning of the school year to get into high school, he was like,
you know what, I'm gonna put you on the lowest level because your Dutch is not good, but you're pretty well performing in the rest of the things.
Are you kidding me right now? There's also so many instances of people that have difficulty with a little bit of mathematics and all the rest of the things they're really good at and outstanding, and they still will get put onto a lower level because they're like, oh, you're not capable of doing one thing, let alone 5 things on VWO. And the only reason why they will not put someone on the higher level is because they have difficulty with, for instance, math, and the rest of the freaking subjects they're outstandingly performing. I mean, come on, you're not gonna freaking degrade a student for one subject that they're bad at or one thing that they have difficulty with so that their whole entire freaking future can change. Sorry. Because if we're going to look at it in the harsh way, you're doing fee MBO. For instance, you do 4 years of school. You're 16, 17 when you get out of school. You do MBO. That's about what? 2, 3, 4 years of studying. And then you literally work full time from then onwards up until you're what? 75? You can, of course, choose to study further on and to get higher onto that scale. But it's only going to cost you more and more and more time and money. When you do a half-o, you can go to college at 18, 17. After 1 year of college, you can do university. To me, it's kind of insane that someone who does fee MBO barely gets any chances or any like possibilities or opportunities at all just to be in a field that they could easily be in. Let's say you have someone on VMBO that really wants to become a doctor. They are not allowed to study medicine after VMBO, of course. They have to do doctor's assistant for 4 years on MBO. Then they have to upgrade to HBO, which is college. Then they need to do 1 year of a specific like college course that is really freaking focused on the medical field. And then they can start uni. And then you still have to do like a freaking selection and everything just to be accepted into medical school. So what? We're now maybe 8 years further or something. So at 22, you're starting to apply for medicine, and let alone if you're not even going to get into medicine, you're just going to become older and older and older, and your time's going to pass and pass and pass. It's not fun to go through that whole entire freaking system, go through that whole entire freaking like staircase just to get to a certain point in life. Exact same thing with dentists. I've spoken to so many students that I've given exam trainings to that literally had like this whole dream of becoming a dentist, and they cannot do that because they are on a lower level, even though these students were very much capable of doing a higher level. So being underestimated is something that's very big in Dutch high school. Teachers just genuinely value your worth, and that is the worst part of Dutch high school. And like I said, it's not really the school that is necessarily the problem, but the people in it, because all the freaking students in Dutch high school, it's like there's too much happening. It's way too effed up, honestly. The amount of bullying I've seen, the amount of like discrimination I've seen, the amount of racism I've seen in that freaking environment is absolutely crazy. I finished Dutch high school in 2024. That's when I did my exam year. How can you tell me that after the year 2016, 2017, there's still people racist and like saying the N-word openly and out and proud to someone that is of a specific country or region, and you're just like openly discriminating them like that in the middle of the school? And the thing is, no one really does anything with it. There's so many people that are racist here, so many people that just do not like, that have a very right-winged view on everything and a very communistic view on anything, and that really makes it kind of hard and difficult to go through high school without encountering any type of, you know, inconvenience. In general, I personally did not like my high school experience whatsoever. The only time that I started to enjoy it was in 5th year when I started to meet a few people that I became friends with. Up until that point in 5th year, so genuinely like 4 or 5 years of high school, I've just been living on the edge and being like, I do not like high school whatsoever. I do not like being here. I do not like studying. Only up until a point where I started to actually become a bit better in school and have a bit more rest in my mind. That's when I started to enjoy it a bit more. And even at that point, there were always people that would somehow mess up my whole entire school experience in some way. Every single school in the Netherlands, you will find some sort of like group of boys and guys that are just very old school minded, that are not very accepting whatsoever. It does not matter whether you are a closed off person or a very open social person, whether you are happy or very depressed, they will be called out. Those things will be called out. I could be quiet the whole entire year, and at some point people will start gossiping about me. It's just a fact. University and college, you will not really experience that, of course, because because people are very much on their own. But in high school, you have no other option than just to be there and to freaking socialize. And even if you do, there will always be something happening. I've seen so much drama happening. I've seen so many like fake accounts being made, so many people being bullied online as well. Hate comments, just a bunch of comments on their body, just a bunch of comments on how they look like, on how they speak or anything, how they dress even. I mean, people are getting picked out, genuinely picked out just because of the way they're dressed. And if you were not up to date with the latest trends or latest things, then people would genuinely say something about it and call you poor. In a country where there's still quite a bit of a difference between like wealthy and poor, I don't think you should be commenting on someone being poor whatsoever. But yeah, I would say it was not the easiest experience to go through high school. Especially if I talk to my friends that are from foreign countries, they will always say that their high school is definitely a lot more well managed. Things are a lot more like stable there. Dutch high school is on a different level. Like an actual different level. And that is exactly why I did not like my Dutch high school experience. Yep, I can definitely bet 1000% there's people that feel this exact same way and that also experience Dutch high school in this sort of way, because I've also made so many TikToks about it. People are always like, yeah, I definitely can see myself in this. It's not just a personal thing. It is just the fact that Dutch high school is not well managed whatsoever. The grading system is bad. The freaking leveling system is bad. The fact that people are getting demolished and degraded on their freaking Dutch as well is really bad. Instead of focusing on the weak points and making them better, they just get freaking devalued and like not focused on whatsoever. It just does not have any improvement. So yeah, that's how it is to be in Dutch high school. A lot of bullying, a lot of drama. It's a whole ass jungle, like I said. Everyone is just like an animal. And that's all I had for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, then please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you also think that the Dutch school system is really effed up. Subscribe to my channel to see more of my content, and I'll probably make a lot more school content like this in the future. I have a lot to say, I have a lot to talk about, and especially in the Netherlands, things are very roughly made. So these are of course a few negative things that I've seen and experienced in the Dutch high school system, but there have also been some positives. Don't see this completely as like, oh yeah, I've seen it as the worst period of my life. I wouldn't say that necessarily, but there is a lot of backlash on the school system here in Netherlands. So I hope you guys will stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.